My name's Lauren Stiles. Welcome to Dysautonomia International's webinar on how to get involved with Dysautonomia Awareness Month. I'm going to pass it over to Charlotte Flores, our outstanding Director of Events, who helps coordinate all of the cool activities happening next month. So Charlotte, take it away.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is the most exciting time of year with Awareness Month coming up in October. If this is your first Awareness Month, you're newly diagnosed or just learning about dysautonomia, welcome. We're so excited to have you. If you are an Awareness Month veteran and you've just been here a while, you know everything there is to know about dysautonomia. Great. We love having you here too. You're a really important part of our team.
So we have some slides we're going to go over to sort of help explain all the different ways people can get involved. And if you have any questions, you can type them into the Q&A tool at the bottom of Zoom, and we'll try to get to everybody's questions. You can also email us. We can email with you after the event to answer any questions. All right, so let me just pull up the slides here. So yeah, obviously, well, we don't know if everyone if there's people who are new to this here. So just to let you know, turquoise is the color of POTS and other dysautonomias. It's the Dysautonomia Awareness color collectively. And October is our awareness month, which is coming up pretty soon. Charlotte, you want to go over the history?
Yeah. So like we said, October is Awareness Month. And often people ask me, why October? How did that get decided? Well, that was when we first launched as an organization. So we were started in October 1st, 2012, and 2012, sorry. And that was how it all began. And people also ask, why turquoise? Where did that come from? Obviously, we like it. It's such a fun color, but it wasn't just something we picked on a whim. We took a vote and we had people say what color they wanted it to be so that our whole community had buy-in to that color. Over 800 people participated in that poll. And then the impact, there are thousands of cities around the world that have hosted Dysautonomia Awareness Month events. You may be living in one, and if you're not, then we would love to figure out how to help you plan one for your area.
Yeah. So people sometimes ask, like, why do we have to raise awareness? I think most of us kind of intuitively understand that, particularly if you've joined this call, you think it's important to raise awareness during Awareness Month. But if people are asking you, like, well, why should we bother, doing this awareness stuff? I think some diseases have so much awareness around them that doing an awareness activity almost seems silly. Like everybody's heard of certain diseases, right? But POTS and orthostatic intolerance and syncope and all the different forms of dysautonomia, most people have not heard of these things and they really don't know about them. So we genuinely are a community that benefits from actually raising some awareness. And things that raising awareness can actually help with includes reducing the diagnostic delay for the next round of patients that come behind us, right? Most of us experienced long diagnostic delays and a lot of gaslighting or misdiagnosis. And we want to help make that better for the next generation of patients. We want to improve the care for current patients. The more people that know about this, the more support it gets politically, the more, when we're raising awareness, even if we're not targeting medical professionals, they read the newspaper just like everyone else. That somebody's family member who's a nurse is going to hear about this, and then they maybe talk to the people at their clinic about it. So it can improve care for current patients when there's a higher level of awareness. Very important to our patient community. Often people have family members or peers, classmates, coworkers, and people in their community who they're interacting with that just don't understand why they feel sick all the time or they've missed an event or something. So having some awareness at the community level can help you get the compassion and support and resources you need in your community. We definitely want to attract more businesses to trying to develop products and services that help our patient community live a better quality of life, or God forbid, some more effective treatments and a cure, And so raising awareness and kind of growing and networking our patient community together does help stimulate some interest from different innovators, investors and things like that. We obviously want to encourage more medical professionals to take an interest in autonomic disorders and to maybe even specialize in them. We're always looking to get political support for what our patient community's needs are. And politicians really actually do rely a lot on how much media coverage they're hearing about their, various diseases in their districts or their states. And so trying to get media coverage really can influence how much an elected official's office might pay attention to our needs. Obviously, we want to raise a lot of funds for research, and the more awareness you have, and the more people talking about it, you might connect with people who can donate or can host a fundraiser. And then really important just at the personal level is that we want to connect local patients and caregivers and their families together, because so many of us kind of go through this alone. People don't necessarily know anyone who has it. They've never met someone who has it. And a lot of times at Dysautonomia International events, like the best part of the event is patients like meeting another dysautonomia patient, being like, oh my God, I found my people, like my tribe, and it just feels good to connect with people one-on-one. And really, the more networked we are as a patient community, the more we can help each other out, we can share resources. And so Awareness Month, especially the sort of gathering of people in person to do different activities, really can help forge those bonds. So what is the most effective awareness tool of all the different things you could do, right? And it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but the most effective way we raise awareness is by getting media coverage. And so you can do this at the local level, the hometown penny saver newspaper, the local church bulletin, the PTA newsletter, like any kind of community-based recognition. Then you could aim for radio stations, local, bigger regional media outlets. Sometimes even we've seen stories on like the local NBC station or the local ABC news station, something like that. So when we're aiming for media coverage, we're usually doing this connected to some kind of activity that the newspaper or the media outlet will be reporting on. There was an Awareness Month lighting. They lit up the big monument in town, Turquoise. The local patients gathered for a fundraiser. The local patients gathered at the hospital for to give there was a doctor who gave a lecture on this, or a patient advocate. So there has to be like a happening to get the media interested. But when we're interacting with the media, it's super, super important that we are accurate and that we project credibility as a patient community. Because I'm sure a lot of a lot of medical professionals and sometimes other people kind of cast doubt on us. They don't understand it. And so they don't believe it. So we have to be super accurate to build our credibility. We also want to be relatable, right? A lot of us have, myself included, and I think it's fair to say Charlotte as well. We have a long list of diagnoses, right? POTS, EDS, mast cell, Sjogren's, migraine, small fiber neuropathy. If you try to give that to a reporter, it's going to just confuse them, and it's going to confuse the audience that the journalist is talking to. So we encourage people to just stick to their one diagnosis that's in the dysautonomia list of conditions and just talk about that, because it can be really, really super confusing to people when we know that all these conditions are related, but most people don't. So I think you also want to be very organized, and you want to have like 3 points that you're trying to get across in the media story, whether it's a TV interview or a written story in the newspaper or an online journalism type thing. It's just, you're not going to be able to teach them everything they need to know about dysautonomia, but there's just like, 3 things you can usually get across in an article. And then you usually say, and go to the Dysautonomia International website for more information, and you provide the link. So people who are curious can have a way to go learn more. Most of us have dysautonomia stories that are, like really long and complicated. Myself, I've been living with this for 14 years, and it took 2 years of misdiagnosis to get the correct one, and I know that's short. A lot of the average diagnostic delay for some of the autonomic disorders is over 5 to 7 years. So everybody has these complicated long stories, but you really can't get that in a media story. It's just going to turn off the journalist. So you really need to be able to boil down your story to like a 30-second elevator pitch. I was 15 years old. I got really, really sick. It took 5 years to get diagnosed. Then we found out I had dysautonomia, and, I'm on all the treatments, but it's not really helping. And so we need research to find a cure. Great story. That will get picked up by the media. It's a concise, it's the reason you're doing an Awareness Month activity. You're trying to raise awareness to find, to help people get the help they need and to get diagnosed and to, encourage the community to support the idea that we need to invest more in this research. And then we have a media guide that we can email out to everybody who's tuned into this webinar. We'll also be sharing it on our social media during Awareness Month. And it's a media guide that just helps you prepare for how to talk to a reporter. Because sometimes if you've never been interviewed before by a journalist, it can be a little intimidating. But don't be intimidated. You know, journalists are nice. Their job is to listen to stories from people. And they're not out to get you or anything. You're not a celebrity, probably. Maybe you are, but they're just going to try to help share your story in a way that their readers will be interested in. So, Charlotte, maybe you can talk about some of these different types of activities.
Yeah. And before we go to this slide, I saw somebody ask if we will be sharing the slides. When you get the recording from this video, it'll have a link to the slides, so you'll be able to view them all there. Another question I know is going to come up that we didn't cover in the slides is, well, how do I even reach out to a news channel or to get in contact with them? I think the first best way is to see if you have any personal connections. Ask on your social media. Does anybody know somebody at the news? Can you connect me with somebody at the paper? Ask first. And then the second thing is to go to that news outlet, and they should have somewhere on their website what the best way to get in contact with them would be. And then you just follow.
There's often, depending on the size of the media organization, like you want to reach the editor's desk or the assignment desk, or you want to talk to, if it's a bigger media outlet, they might have like a health reporter. That's, you know, like sometimes the local news channels have like, you know, the person who does the health story once a week, or the person who different from the person who's on the crime beat or the weather person, you know. So if they have like a health journalist, you want to reach out to them. We also offer sample press releases, which we'll talk about a little later. But the trick to getting the media coverage is actually, you can't just talk to the media and get your story. It usually doesn't work. You have to have a happening that they can report on. Something happened. There was a proclamation issued by the mayor. There was the big monument in town got lit up turquoise, right? Or there was a billboard on, if you've seen these billboards on the local highways about dysautonomia, like what's that, you know? Local families hosting a fundraiser is something, you know, that can get in a newspaper story about it. Community presentations could be things like presenting at your school, presenting at a place of worship, presenting at the local hospital or with the local hospital if they have events. Sometimes there's like, oh, go ahead.
So sometimes town hall will have a meeting and you as a local member can say, oh, there's something I'd like to share and present. And that could be a place too.
Yeah. And then school events, you know, science fairs, things like that. So we have examples of how to get a proclamation. So they're called, you know, we call them Dysautonomia Awareness Month proclamations. And we have a template of proclamation language that's already written, like a government would issue a proclamation, and they use certain types of language, like whereas blah, 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 blah. Whereas, you know, heretofore, therefore, you know, the village of Asherogan designates October Dysautonomia Awareness Month, you know, and sometimes the elected officials will slightly modify the proclamation we give them. But the template is usually what they use. And it does recognize a whole bunch of different types of dysautonomia so that nobody's left out. If you're, you know, whatever type of dysautonomia you have is probably covered by the proclamation language we have. If you go to dysautonomiainternational.org/awareness, which Charlotte could type into the chat so everybody has, if you put the HTTPS at the beginning, it'll actually link. There are sample proclamation request letters, like a sample letter that you can send to your local town councilman or county legislator or your state representative to ask for the proclamation. And it also includes the sample proclamation language. But if you just get them, like a lot of times the governor will just send you a proclamation in the mail, you know, that's great, but that doesn't actually raise awareness. What you really want, and it's much easier to get this at the local level, your local town, village, county, whatever your local jurisdiction is called, you know, reaching out to them and saying, you know, can we get a proclamation from the mayor, and can they present it at City Hall to our patients? Let's say you're from Houston, right? Can Houston City Hall present a Dysautonomia Awareness Month proclamation on the October 15th meeting, which, they have their monthly meetings in most of these government agencies, and then have you and some other local dysautonomia families from Houston go to City Hall and take pictures with the mayor, and then they have something to send to the press. You have a photo with the mayor, and usually they'll let you or somebody from the dysautonomia group say a few words, to thank the city for doing the proclamation, and telling them a little bit about what life with dysautonomia is like. So it can be really, really cool if you get a bunch of people together to do that. And in every city in this country, in the US and abroad, there are other people with dysautonomia. So if you say, like, I'm going to do a proclamation in, Fargo, we're going to find some other patients for you that live in that area that would probably be really excited to go to City Hall. So we would encourage everybody to aim for the local legislatures, because that's where you can go in person and do a presentation usually. If you get it from the governor, that's cool, but it doesn't actually raise awareness. You just get a piece of paper that says proclamation, and they stamp sign these all day long. So I don't want to discourage you from doing that if that's what you want to do, but it's not really advancing the awareness effort. We ask everybody to let us know which government agency you're going to aim to do for proclamations, so we don't have duplicates. And so, like, if somebody already contacted us and said, I'm going to do Boston City Hall, and then someone else says, well, I want to do Boston City Hall, we'll just put them together so they can work on it together. And the whole goal is to just actually raise awareness. It's not like a competition to see who gets it first or something. And there's always, if you're trying to plan things to get other patients to go, it's always good to have a helper. The best, this is actually, if you see in this photo, this is me with my Brookhaven town supervisor, my local township here on Long Island. And these are our local patient advocates and families that came out, and some of the town council members. And so we did this event a few years ago. We got our proclamation. They made a nice little speech, and we have a big town. So we had a town audience in the town hall of maybe like over 100, 200 people. And the town also records their meetings. So it got broadcast on our local, cheesy public access station. But the fun thing is we all met, we went and we did this, and then we actually went out to dinner afterwards, and we did like a small fundraiser. I think we went to Fridays, TGI Fridays restaurant, and Fridays did, they would give 10% of the receipts back to Dysautonomia International to help, raise funds for research or something. So if you don't have to do this, but it's kind of a fun way to gather local patients together, and grab, it doesn't have to be dinner. It could be lunch, it could be ice cream, it could be everybody meet at a coffee shop, or just meeting up together to meet each other, not even with the fundraising in mind. But a lot of restaurants will do what's called a give back night, or a percentage of, they'll donate a percentage of receipts from your party. And if you let us know what you have planned, you can get creative with it. If you let us know what you've planned, you can email Charlotte, and then we'll actually add it to our website and to our social media to let everybody else in the community know, like, hey, there's something happening in Tucson, or there's something happening in Houston. And if you want us to, if we hear from other patients, we'll connect them with you so that you guys can do it, together. Press release. So we talked about this before. This is like another level of, really helping raise awareness with the activity you're doing. We have a sample professionally written press release that has like generic language about what is dysautonomia, when is Dysautonomia Awareness Month, who is Dysautonomia International, what is this organization? And then in it, there's like a space for the local patient that's going to be using, or it doesn't have to be patient. You could be a caregiver, you could be an ally. You don't have to have a form of dysautonomia to do this. Sharing like a sentence or two, like why Dysautonomia Awareness Month is important to you. And so it will be a quote like, Jennifer Smith, local girl from Omaha, Nebraska, says dysautonomia awareness is really important to her family because she has 3 siblings with dysautonomia and we really need a cure, and then that becomes the local patient quote. You can customize what you want to say. And then the rest of the press release, I think there might be a quote from one of the famous dysautonomia doctors. So that kind of gives the medical credibility. And there might be a quote from me in it that's like a generic Dysautonomia International kind of quote. But this press release works, and we've used it for many stories in the past. And sending it to the local media, they haven't seen it before, so we don't worry about that. And the whole goal of the press release is not to write the whole story, but it's actually just to get a reporter interested in doing a story on the topic. And then they'll contact you and you can talk to them in more detail and do an interview with them if you feel comfortable. So if you get any press coverage or if you have any press interest, let us know. Keep us in the loop, because what we're trying to do is support and empower patients and caregivers to do the most effective advocacy they can, right? By giving you resources and tools that have been proven to work in the past. Charlotte, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just on that note, I don't want you to waste your time and energy. So if we've already got two other people that are trying to reach out and create something, it'd be much more powerful for the three of you to bond together and create that as a team versus everybody trying so hard to create their own thing.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, person A works on getting the proclamation, person B says, okay, I'll help with the press release, and person C says, oh, I'll plan an event at the local ice cream place or something like that. And there's so much advocacy work we could all be doing that there's never a shortage of help needed. But a lot of times you might be the only person in the community that's like stepped up to do something. We have seen where like the first year you do it in your town, like you might be the first person, but then local patients will hear about it afterwards and they'll go, oh, I want to help with that next year. So sometimes these grow over the years and they become bigger every year. And it's kind of fun. That Brookhaven town one I did, we gotten up to like having like 70 or 80 local patients showing up at the event at the biggest. So keep growing them. So here's just some example of the lightings. These are really fun because they're cool pictures, and, kind of meeting outside of the dark at 7 o'clock at night in the middle of October is kind of fun. It's not quite Halloween, but almost. So these are just some of the lightings. There's been literally, I think we're probably in the thousands of buildings and monuments that have been lit up, and they're not all as fancy as this. Sometimes it's just like, the local elementary school has a light on the archway of the building or something. And it's just like a recognition that they're acknowledging dysautonomia awareness in their community. And this one in Colorado this is my perfect example of like a great group photo, all of the local patients, a lot of people wearing turquoise, right? And really staged nicely with the cool photo in the background. And so you send that type of photo to the local press, and they'll almost always, especially if it's a small newspaper, they're looking for content. And so you can probably get a story sending that kind of a great photo to them. So you can get creative, and probably, how do you get a lighting? So Charlotte is going to talk to you about that a bit.
So the first thing to do is think about what in your town lights up or what close to you lights up. You can do that by actually driving through the town at night and looking to see what lights up, or you can Google what has lit up for a previous awareness month. So let's say you live in Raleigh and you want to type in Raleigh Awareness Month lighting. It'll show you if there's other places in the past that have done that for another organization's awareness month. And that would let you know that it could light up. You also, like Lauren was saying with the local school, you may just drive past and notice something that's lit, but they don't have a program for lighting up. So you just reach out to them and say, oh, we'd love to have you turn turquoise for awareness for us, and reach out that way. We have a lighting request letter that is on the link that's also in the chat. And so popular monuments may have an online form that you fill out, but oftentimes you can just send an email using this letter and say, I'm interested in having a lighting. It's got all the details you need. It has the right shade of turquoise so that they know what color to use. So we tried to make it as easy as possible. After you've done that, then let me know the date, time, and location of the lighting. Also, let me know when you're reaching out, just so that, again, we're not duplicating efforts there. And then once we've got something set up, we'll help you coordinate some sort of event there. You and I can talk about if you want to do a fundraiser with it or if you want to gather people. But like Lauren said, if we just get something lit up in the sky that's turquoise and only your grandma and your cat know about it, it's not really raising the awareness. So we want to make sure that we've got that second piece of getting some awareness in the news or some coverage or creating an event to go with it.
Yeah. And sometimes with the lightings, even if it's the first year you're doing it in your community, just gathering local patients to just take a group photo in front of the lighting is really fun, and then you guys connect and then talk about like, oh, maybe next year we plan this a little further in advance and we can plan a little event with it or something like that. You kind of a lot of these things build momentum over time, especially if people have fun, right? That's always the key. If it's kind of like boring or like nothing happens, then nobody's going to come back next year. But most of the time when dysautonomia patients meet in person, somebody's hysterical laughing, somebody's sometimes crying, they're crying tears of joy because they found their tribe and they're people who understand them. But there's usually a lot of giggling. So we're a fun bunch for a bunch of sick people. And so how do you get a billboard? This actually might be the easiest thing to do. It seems harder, but there are big billboard companies like Clear Channel. If you just drive around and you look at the name of the company on the bottom of the billboards, on every highway billboard, there's always like a name of the company that owns the billboard. So what we aim for is electronic billboards because you can get them for free. You can't get a big printed paper and ink kind of billboard for free because you have to pay someone to install it and take it down, and they're kind of not as popular anymore anyways. But digital billboards, someone just has to click a button on a computer to change that billboard. So we contact these big companies and they're usually very regional in their scope. So like Clear Channel is one of the biggest billboard companies. And so they'll have like a Northeast Ohio division and they'll have like a Southeast Ohio division, so whatever region you live in, you're contacting one of these companies and their local affiliate. And what we ask them is, would you consider donating any pro bono billboards, electronic billboard space anytime during the month of October, even if it's up for 5 minutes, right? So a lot of times these electronic billboards, they're on a rotation schedule. So it'll be like, it's up for 5 minutes once an hour, something like that. And fine, we'll take it. That's great. It's free. So even if they don't offer it, ideally we're aiming for October, but even if they don't have any in October, but they'll give you some in November, sure, take it. It's raising awareness. So we have professionally designed billboard graphics that you can use. If the billboard that you're trying to get is an atypical shape, it's not one of these big, long, standard highway billboard rectangles, and you let us know you need a different shape, we can design it very easily. Sometimes people who couldn't find donated billboard space decided to pay for a billboard in their local community just to kind of have something. So you can do that. And it's surprisingly, they can generally design whatever fits your budget. So if you say, oh, I only have $100 for this, you might actually be able to get a billboard, which is kind of surprising. But it really just depends on what market you're in. Bigger cities are way more expensive than rural highways, things like that. It really depends where you are. But we've usually just gotten them for free. Our organization doesn't pay for them because we try to put all our money into research as much as possible. And we've been able to get a lot of free ones over the years. So you let us know, take a picture. It's kind of fun to take a picture on a billboard. Be careful if it's on a big highway. We don't want anybody getting hurt, So here's just some of the examples of the billboards we have. This one was particular about POTS from several years ago. POTS is actually probably more common than this now because of long COVID, but it's a graphic that we already have made from a few years ago. Here's the top one, is more about dysautonomia more generally. And that one, even though it's got a black background, like it actually looks really good in daylight because it kind of pops on the screen. And then we have a couple different versions of this one on the bottom, that lightheaded, fainting, fatigued, just kind of giving people a hint that they might actually want to talk to their doctor about this thing called dysautonomia, which hopefully helps people get diagnosed. So Charlotte is going to talk to you a bit about how to get involved in different levels of fundraising during Awareness Month, if you want to.
We have some great things that are already set up. And then we always want to be with you and kind of dream about what's your idea for fundraising in your community. You know your community best. And so we want you to really create something that strikes passion in you and really works for you. So the first option is to join something that already exists. We have some great existing events. I just dropped into the chat the POTS Walk link. So we have a walk called POTS Walk. Every time we say it, people say, Oh, but I can't walk. It's fine. You, as a patient, do not have to come walk. It's a community event for people to come hang out. There's a lot of patients that sit at the kind of finish line and cheer people on as they cross. It's just a great way to meet other people. You can bring a team. It's a great way to get other people involved. So you can say, I'm going to this POTS walk and I'd love for you to come and kind of walk for me or walk in my honor. It's another great way to do it. Detroit has their event coming up first on September 22nd. And then Boston has theirs on October 19th. And then we also have a POTS walk in the spring, and we're always interested in creating more POTS walks. So if that's something that really resonates with you and you'd like to plan something like that in your community, again, send me an email. We'll connect and talk more about what all the steps are for that and how we could get you involved. Then we've also got Knox Rocks POTS. That's in Knoxville, and that is a completely different event. It is a jam session where we have a group of moms who have teens that play instruments, and they have this jam session in the brewery, and they have some speakers and different kind of fun events throughout the day, a raffle, that kind of thing. And that is October 20th. And so those events are all coming up. We'd love for you to join us at any of those. And then a second way you can fundraise is collecting. So you can collect money throughout the month for research. If you have a secretary at where you work or a front desk at the school, it's really easy to just put a jar out that says dollars for dysautonomia. Maybe has a little, one of the things that you can find on the Awareness Month that tell you a little bit more about what our organization does. You could have a printout form. You'll see those also on the website. About what dysautonomia is. There's a great 10 facts about dysautonomia that you could just have sitting next to that and then try to encourage people to raise money. I've also seen some people, like if you are at a school, maybe you are competitive and it's whether the freshmen will raise more money or the sophomores. So you could create different jars that way too and add a little competition to it. The third option is to organize. So organize a fundraiser, host a bake sale at your school, your church, your work, do a give back night like we were talking about. I think give back nights are the easiest thing to host. They're really simple. They sound kind of intimidating, but are really fast to set up. And there's a really clear process that I can easily walk you through for how to get those set up too. And then plan a cocktail party, a potluck, a game night, or a dinner party and ask guests to donate some amount of money. Again, I think this is a great place to just think about what gets you excited and then go from there. If you're really crazy about playing Dungeons and Dragons, then maybe it's a Dungeons and Dragons night and all your friends come and you help raise money there. There's a lot of different things you could do, and just think about what your community likes to do and what you personally would like to get involved with.
I want to chime in on the potluck. I hosted a potluck one time. It was a potluck about pots, and everything was very salty.
As you would expect. Yeah, I love that name, Potluck. I also have a list of different fun names if you're trying to come up with creative ideas for yours, or like a cupcakes for a cure. There's a lot of different things you can riff off of there. Getting social. So we have through Facebook, it's really easy to create a fundraiser for Dysautonomia International, and then to share that link with your social media. Let people know this is a cause that matters to you. Let them know what dysautonomia is, how it ties to you, and let them know October is Awareness Month, and that's why you're raising funds.
Yep.
This next page is going to show you some different events. So like I was talking about, like think about what matters to you. In the bottom left, these are a group of people who go to the gym a lot, and they had a lifting event where they did some lifting. Then in the middle is actually an event I used to throw called Art with a Heart, because I love art. And so we had an art auction at a brewery. Patients made their own art. So it was a really cool immersive experience in art. And then that bottom right picture is the Knox Rocks pots where I was talking about them jamming out.
Yeah, I think that the Knox Rocks Pots idea is such a fun fundraiser to do. So if you like have a friend who has a band, or you know somebody who owns a pub or a restaurant that has a bar or a place where people could play music, just asking them like, hey, like, would you do, it doesn't even have to be a weekend. Sometimes restaurants are reluctant to do fundraisers on weekends because that's like when they make their most money. But, can we do like a Thursday night, where the bar donates, maybe they have a special beer that night that for every beer they sell, they donate $1 to dysautonomia research, or the cover charge at the band donates the cover charge to the organization or something like that. And they were like selling t-shirts and they had raffles and auctions, and it's really just a lot of fun. And they were that Knox Rocks Pots, I think one year they raised like $30,000 just like hanging out at a bar, having fun, and it raised awareness because other people come into the bar and the restaurant that aren't part of the fundraiser, and they're like, "What's going on here? Why is everybody wearing turquoise?" You know, so that's really a fun one that we would love to see replicated elsewhere. Um, oh yeah, here's a little bit more on how to organize like community-based presentations. So, if you're a college student, like there might be different clubs on campus or student government where you could sort of ask them like, hey, can we have a presentation on this? Can we have a speaker? Especially if you're a student in the health professions, like pre-nursing or in a nursing program or pre-med or whatever, and you have, maybe you're, if you're younger, like, reaching out to the school biology teachers and being like, hey, can we talk about the autonomic nervous system during Dysautonomia Awareness Month? If you're a teacher or you know somebody who's a teacher, we actually have curriculum content for K-6 and high school age kids that you could use if you can sneak it into the curriculum somehow. I actually taught a fourth grade. I'm not a teacher by Charlotte's an actual teacher. I taught like marine biology in college, but that didn't really count. I taught a fourth grade class in a New York City public school once because one of the kids in the class, her mom had dysautonomia, and the kids actually in the class, fourth grade students in New York City, held a lemonade and empanada fundraiser for us like the whole school year. And they were charging like, 25 cents for the lemonade and like $1 for the empanadas. And they ended up raising like $900 in the school year. So I went into the city to pick up the check and the teacher said, do you want to teach class for the day? And I thought, oh, that'll be fun. Oh my God, so hard keeping the attention of fourth graders for an entire school day. But we did, we learned about our fight or flight system we had them hold on to the back of a chair because we didn't want them running around the room. Hold on to the back of your chair and pretend a bear is chasing you and run and scream, and they did that for 5 minutes, and that's their sympathetic nervous system, and then we had them rest their head on the desk and try to take a nap for 5 minutes to talk about the parasympathetic nervous system. So anyways, the school stuff is really fun. If you're a teacher or someone who's a teacher, we have some tools that you could use for that. Hospital presentations, sometimes that takes a little longer to set it up, but it's a good opportunity to reach out to the hospitals and say, hey, do you have can we get a grand rounds? So most hospitals, particularly academic affiliated hospitals, like if they're affiliated with a medical school, will have what's called grand rounds in each department every single month. So the Department of Neurology hosts a speaker on a neurology topic every single month. The internal medicine department hosts a speak, which is usually where cardiology is placed. They host a speaker every single month. Physical therapy department has a speaker every month. So if you reach out to the hospital saying, hey, can we get a speaker to come in and talk about dysautonomia? If you feel confident and skilled enough to give that kind of talk yourself, do it. Go ahead. Feel empowered to ask. Usually they're going to want someone that has the right degrees, like an MD or an RN degree or something like that. So if you want, Dysautonomia International can always provide speakers for grand rounds, particularly if they're now a lot of hospitals and universities do virtual ground rounds, so you can do it over Zoom. So we can send one of our medical advisory board members. Sometimes I do the grand rounds talks, but we've been doing more and more of these, and most grand rounds will have an audience of like 30 doctors. So, getting your local hospital to allow a grand rounds presentation on your type of dysautonomia and having an expert come in. And sometimes they will allow the patient to come in and also present, which we encourage, but not every hospital wants that. So that's a really fun thing. Talk to your own doctors. If you have a dysautonomia interested doctor that sees you, even if they're not a top expert, ask them like, hey, we're trying to raise awareness. I'm a volunteer for this organization. We're trying to raise awareness. Can you help me get a grand rounds on dysautonomia set up at the local hospital? And sometimes your doctor might actually say, yeah, sure, I'll help you with that. Community center, library present, a lot of community libraries do, lectures on various topics. So that's one that you could probably do the lecture if you felt comfortable with public speaking. We have like sample slideshows. If you reach out to us and you want to do a lecture, we have some sample slides that you could use. info tables at community health fairs, concerts, crafts, even if you live in a community where the high school football game is like the big fun thing to do on the Friday night, going to your high school football team and saying, hey, can I just have an info table, and just to give out information, because a lot of autonomic disorders are actually diagnosed in adolescence, right? So we want to raise awareness in the schools, and usually the school nurses are kind of interested in this stuff too. So that might be a way in if you have a helpful school nurse. Let's see what else. So doing follow-up is really important. Whatever you set your plan in motion, you want to do good follow-up on this. So you want to send us a photo or two from the activity or the event. And you want to send that with a press release. If you are doing a press release, you want to send some kind of photo they can use, because that a lot of local journalism is very underfunded and they don't have enough staff. So if you send them a well-written press release and a photo, it's like surprisingly common that they will actually just write the story because they have no other content. And then, so let us know if you get any press coverage. If you got a proclamation, a lighting, a billboard, an event, make sure you thank everybody who helped out with that, especially the companies involved in providing, or the government agency involved. Thank your donors, thank people who attended. Let people know if you plan to do this again next year and make it even bigger and better. You're going to want to recruit volunteers from the community to help you. Say like, oh, this was really fun for our first year doing this, but next year I'd love to have a little committee that helps coordinate all this. That's how our most successful events that happen every year, that's kind of how they grew and evolved over time to being bigger, more regular events. And then, yeah, think about after you've done it, and we do this as an organization, after our conference every year, after any event we do, we kind of debrief afterwards and we said, okay, what went well? And what do we want to do better next year? What did people love? What did people think was kind of, so, and learning from what you did and trying to make it better next year, if you're inclined to do this again, which usually, even when people are reluctant the first year, they're like a little nervous about doing something because they've never done something like this before. It feels so good to raise awareness and to know that you've helped people that usually people want to do it again. Social media is a big part of obviously everything in terms of promotions and awareness these days, right? But we can help you expand. Like if you share on your social, that's great. But if you share what you did with us, we can share it on our social that has, generally, I mean, some of you have bigger social media than we do, but most people don't, right? And so we share it around to the whole dysautonomia community. And that actually, if you did a successful event, that encourages your fellow patients in other parts of the world. They go, oh, wow, that was a cool thing that person did. Maybe I could do that in my town. So that's one way, like encouraging each other to do this type of stuff by sharing what we did. And it's kind of fun to see, your photos and the work that you did shared on the Dysautonomia International social. So our hashtags are, make noise for turquoise. We ask people, if you're sharing stuff on social, to tag one of our Dysautonomia International social media channels so we can sort of highlight your work. And yeah, definitely just keep in touch with us throughout this process. Charlotte really coordinates with like literally hundreds of volunteers for Awareness Month every year. I don't know how she does it, but it seems to go off pretty smoothly usually. So, and this is our final closing slide here. It's a quote from Margaret Mead that means a lot to us here. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And that's you, the folks who have tuned into this webinar and taken time on your Thursday evening and are thinking about doing something bigger for October. It's you guys that are going to change the world. So with that, we'll stop the slides and let's see if we have some questions in the Q&A chat.
Yeah, we
Hi,
do have.
Greg. Greg says, hi, I'm new. So hello, Greg. Thanks for joining us. Yes, we will share the slides after the presentations. And yeah, great. I'm really glad you're here. Let's see. Oh, Lauren has a good question. If you set up a Facebook fundraiser and set the goal at a certain amount and you don't reach the goal, does Dysautonomia International still get the money raised? Yes. Even if you raise 5 cents, Facebook actually sends us the check for that. And Facebook fundraisers are, really fun. We find that the ones that are most successful is where the person who creates it shares their own story. Like, why is raising money for this important to them? Because they have this illness, or their loved one or friend has this illness, and this organization is funding research to try to find more effective treatments and cures. And, we really need to, tell our stories, not just say, donate here, right?
And then I see Jennifer is asking, she's trying to find something in her area, and was trying to see if there's anything planned. Well, the first thing you can do is make sure you're a member of your local support group. So we have a support group in every state and over 80 different countries. So if there's something in your area, join that support group. That's definitely where we'll be sharing updates when things are happening. And then if there's not something in your area, my answer is always going to be, let's plan it. You and I can work together and get something going in that area. And hopefully we'll get the rest of the people out and you might make some connections. And then like Lauren was saying, some things snowball. So it may be a meetup your first year with a handful of you. And then those people want to help plan something for the next year. And every year it becomes kind of a more significant event for you.
Yeah. Here's a great question. If we set up a table or something at an event, are there flyers and such that we can hand out about dysautonomia? Yes. So we have quite a few like PDF type files that you can print out. We don't really have the funds to like mail out a bunch of flyers to like everyone who asks for them, because we have such a big patient community. So we put things on the website, and you can, they're nice printable one-page flyers that you could print out and hand out at a table. And I think that's it for the questions right now. Does anybody else have other thoughts or questions, or even if you have ideas that you want to share with the rest of the group? Because we're all about like, somebody has a cool idea in Tuscaloosa, like do it there, and let's have 10 other people do it in other states, So I'm like always thinking of silly acronyms for or not acronyms, but like we did the pedal for POTS, or we've done cupcakes for a cure, or donuts for dysautonomia. Probably donuts giving people dysautonomia, but anyways, it was a kids fundraiser at a school and they loved it. So if you think of things like that, feel free to share it with us, because we want to encourage other people to do it too.
And I would just encourage everyone to know too, there's no age limit on this. You probably saw in our slides, we have some kids that were 5-year-olds up to if you're 95, whatever age you are, we want you to be involved with this. And you can't really start too small. So maybe you want to do something like a bracelet fundraiser at your school. Maybe your Girl Scout troop wants to help make something and support you. There can be a lot of ways to get the community you're already connected to involved, and just start thinking that way. And then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. And I think probably the most useful link, we're going to be sending out emails. If you're on hopefully you're all on our email list. We'll send out like a how-to email that summarizes a bunch of this for the whole patient community. And then also the website, dysautonomiainternational.org/awareness. If you go there right now, it still has the 2023 graphic on it, but it'll be updated to it's because we forgot to update it before the webinar, but it'll be updated tomorrow. But it's the same content as last year, and just encouraging people. Also, we're going to share dysautonomia awareness facts on social media all month long, and we encourage everybody to share that and share their own stories and stuff as well. So, all right, I think that's all we've got. Any closing thoughts, Charlotte?
I don't think so. I want you to feel empowered. I know that having a diagnosis like this can sometimes feel like it's taken things from you. And what I'm so passionate about with Awareness Month is I feel like it lets us take the power back, and it gives you a chance to help spread the word about that and really make a change. And I really believe in that last slide, that we are the ones step by step that are making a change, making an impact. For anyone like me who's had this diagnosis for a decade, you've seen firsthand how much that has changed. There was a time where you would go into the emergency room and tell them you had POTS, and they didn't know what that was. And now it's incredible how often even a place that doesn't deal with POTS necessarily would know what that is. So awareness has come a long
Yeah.
way. We can make it go further.
Yeah. I talked to a lady from a public relations firm today who not a dysautonomia related thing. And she was like, oh yeah, my friend just got diagnosed with POTS, you know? So like it's the awareness is growing. Another just an inspirational thing I wanted to share. So I live in a really small town on Long Island. We have about 4,000 people, which is small for the New York metro area. You know, we have a hometown newspaper that comes out like once a month if they get it done. And they did a story on Dysautonomia International back when we first started. And I had a chessport and I was like laying on the couch with my feet up, typing on my laptop, trying to build our website. And that's the photo. And they shared that story. And in my tiny little town with 4,000 people, I probably had like 30 families contact me and say, oh my God, our family has this, someone in our family has this, you know, in my little tiny hometown. And every time we get a media story, more people come out of the woodwork and think, oh, I didn't know anyone else in our town had this. That's so amazing. Let's connect, you know? So if you can get some kind of traction to get some kind of local media coverage, it's gonna be like overwhelming, like the number of people that contact you. And, you know, it just feels good to connect people together like that. So, all right, we will let everyone go get some well-deserved rest, and feel free to email us if you have questions or if you have event or activity ideas you want to talk with Charlotte. She's the go-to planning lady who knows how to make all this happen. So,
Forward
all
to
right.
it. My email is just flooded after this. I
Yeah.
look forward to
Yeah.
talking.
She needs a vacation on November 1st. So take care, everybody. Have a good night.